have the special
So Dan, you might want to change my name to Marla Butts, not wetlands agent.
Can anyone hear me?
I hear you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Did Stuart Peasley say whether he'd be on tonight?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay,
He didn't contact me otherwise.
Marla, we haven't yet passed the new quorum operating procedures, have we?
No, we have to have Stuart
Yeah,
the way we have to have Stuart. The town meeting, I was under the impression that there was going to be 2 potential town meetings. And we were not, I wasn't sure if we were going to be included in the first one or not. Dan, do you know?
Yes, there's a special town meeting tomorrow at 7 PM. And the ordinance is the second, I believe, or the first action item after they choose a moderator.
So the answer to your question, Mark, is no, not yet. Maybe next month. Do you want me to call Stuart?
yes, please.
Okay. So his voicemail box was full. And so I just sent him a text message and we'll see if I get a response.
Okay.
Mark, I am going to suggest that we wait until 7:15, at least to see if we can hear back from Stuart.
Yep.
And then at 7:15, if we haven't heard from him, then we should talk
Okay. Yeah.
about rescheduling. I'm gonna put
Right.
myself on mute because I'm trying to listen to the YouTube recording of last month's meeting to clarify some things. I'm having a hard time getting to where I want to get to, but I'll talk later about that, or I'll send
Okay.
an email.
Thank you.
Hello, Ross Ellison here. Would it be possible or proper for me to ask Dan a question?
Sure, I'll allow that.
All right, thank you. Hey, Dan, Ross at Lake Bundy, we had discussed that paragraph I wrote for the meeting. I didn't see us on the agenda. I do, and wasn't smart enough to follow up on you with it earlier. So sorry. about
Sure. I did upload your documents and I did make the commission aware that a couple items need to be added to the agenda. And so we'll be making a motion at some point to put your business somewhere in one of our agenda items.
All right, thank you all.
You're welcome. And I do believe we have Stuart with us.
Yeah, you believe correctly.
Oh,
Can you hear
good.
me?
Hi, Stuart. Yes.
Hi, how's it going, Mark?
Good.
Sorry for my lateness, tardiness.
Okay. You're forgiven. All right. So having heard that announcement, yes, I would like to call to order the December 5th Woodstock Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency regular meeting. It's currently 7:13, I believe, by my clock, or Amy, whatever time you have, you can use that.
I have 7:07.
Very good. Okay, 7:07 it is. All right. So roll call of members present. I'll start off. Mark Parker,
William Rowinski,
Marla Butts,
Stuart Peasley, alternate.
yes, because we need Stuart tonight. The chair recognizes and accepts Stuart's attendance. So to be appointed to sit on as a voting member for tonight's meeting. Okay. So action on the meetings, yeah. So meeting, action on the meetings of the previous minutes of the previous meeting. Which was Monday, October 24th. Are there any corrections, questions?
yes, Mark, Marla speaking here.
Marla.
So I went to the YouTube recording and I'm looking at number 4, A1 or AI. It says Bill Lewinsky noted that the Wetlands Agency should not be referred to as a commission, and commissioners should be referred to as agents in the future minutes. What the recording says is that the members should be referred to as the Wetlands Agency members. So not agents. We are not agents of the commission. And so that should be changed from referred to as agents to being referred to as Wetlands Agency members.
Wetlands,
And then on page agency members, then on page 3, item 7, A, I. The wetlands agents unanimously agree to the above changes. No, it should read the wetlands agency members unanimously agree. We
Where
are
was that?
not an agency.
page 2?
Page 3,
Oh, page
number
3.
7, A.
Yep.
Numeral II. Where it's capitalized wetlands agents should read wetlands agency members, or alternatively, IWWA members. We should decide how we want the minutes to refer to us in the future.
Yep.
So that should be changed. Then, because I'm having difficulties viewing the YouTube recording, I was unable to verify on page 1, item 6, numeral II, AII, at the bottom. It said Marla Butts made a motion to approve application 092206 declaratory ruling, Ross and Kathleen Ellison, 123 Laurel Hill Drive, remove and replace stone walls, adding beach and stairs along the lake as a permit, providing appropriate fees are paid. I think what we had talked about in the meeting was that it was not a declaratory ruling, that it was an individual permit. They hadn't paid the fee. And I think what it said, what it should have said is that that it was an individual permit and that would be issued upon the payment of the fee. One of the things that I'm suggesting is that we don't identify the type of application that it is in the agenda. Just leave it as the file number, the application number. And then at the time of the meeting, we can decide what kind of application it actually is, whether it's a wetlands agent approval, an individual permit, or a declaratory ruling. Because it's misleading to say that it was a declaratory ruling. It was not. It was an individual permit in actuality.
Yep. Okay, so
So-
specifically to editing this this paragraph, what should we say?
I don't think at this juncture it can say anything. And now that I've read it again, I'm looking at it and the agenda called it a declaratory ruling. And so I think what Amy just did is, and what I did was repeated what was on the agenda, repeated the language in the agenda. So if we do the agenda correctly in the future, we won't have this confusion. It is
Okay.
not a declaratory ruling.
Okay,
So, but it does say in the fourth line, the lake as a permit, providing appropriate fees are paid. So if they've paid the fees, then technically they would have a permit, but it's not a declaratory ruling because there's no fee on a declaratory ruling.
right. Okay,
That's all I found.
Before we
And
go
then
forward,
one more
can you
thing.
guys decide what you want to be called, whether IWWA members or wetlands agency members, just so that I have that clearly set?
I
Which
would
is easier
suggest
to type?
IWWA members.
I would prefer IWWA members. Awesome. Thank you,
concur.
guys.
Oh, I had one other one that I haven't been able to verify. Was on page 2. Maybe somebody else remembers this. Item B, III. It says Marla Butts made motion to approve application 092207 declaratory ruling, Burton Hanson, 12 Beaver Dam Road, new septic system to replace failing cesspool as a declaratory ruling under use permitted as of right, maintenance, enjoyment of a residential home. And I wasn't sure, but I thought that one was provisional on NDDH providing the approval, that the approval from NDDH was received. Does anybody recall? That was the one that had the
Marla, that
septic
approval from
system?
NDDH was already there because I approved it through the Lake Association.
Okay, so that was my mistake, because there was one that we approved pending receipt of NDDH, but I couldn't remember what it was. All right, thank you, Amy. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I'm going to suggest that instead of using YouTube as the and it maybe I should send it up to the front office as the mechanism for providing the recording, that they post on the minutes the passcode and the link to the Zoom recording. Because when you download the Zoom recording, locally, you can look at it from the actual Zoom website. But when you download it, you can actually back it up 10 seconds, move forward 30 seconds. So it makes it easier to migrate yourself through the recording if you want to check something. And it's much easier to move through it than through the YouTube, which I found very, you have to use your finger to move the little cursor, and it's hard to get to the right place, particularly if you're working off of a smartphone. But
Marla, I
that was
don't think
just a
the town,
suggestion. I don't know how anybody feel.
I don't think the town
ahead.
uses YouTube for storage. I think for financial reasons, as you have to, Zoom, because you have to pay to keep all those in backup. So I know after 7 days, you can't access it on Zoom. And if they don't download it, it's gone. That's what they do with all the
Okay,
meetings.
so here's what they can do is it can be downloaded and put onto a thumb drive or onto the Woodstock network. So we have it available for our use. Even if it gets lost off the Zoom site, because I just went through and downloaded had all the Zoom meetings for Thompson for the past year, downloaded and put onto a thumb drive, a flash drive. So we have those records, even if it disappears off of Zoom.
All right, so whatever you want to do,
that'll
Crystal
be-
does all that in the office. So if you email that to Crystal, because she does the YouTube for the entire town hall.
Okay, I can do that. That's no problem. I'll send her an email making that request. Thank you.
So who is recording it right now? Is it getting recorded onto a town computer, or is it getting recorded on Dan's computer? Who's, because see, I have the option on the bottom of my screen. I can record this on my computer.
Yeah, but you're hosting.
I'm hosting, and this is getting downloaded to the cloud.
Oh, okay.
And I think Crystal retrieves it from the cloud, downloads it, and then uploads it to YouTube.
Got it.
So if it's already been downloaded to the cloud, that means it's been moved off of Zoom. So it could be available to us as commission members if we needed to listen to a recording, but we would need a place to be able to get to that. I'll talk it over with Crystal and see what she thinks might be the best way to approach it. Okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's. All right, so moving on for any more corrections to the agenda from 2 months ago. Bill, did you have anything?
I haven't looked it over in enough detail to make any comments about it yet.
Okay,
So
Mark, it would just be the two references to IWWA members or Wetlands Agency members, one on page 1 and one on page 3.
okay. I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to approve and accept the minutes as amended, stating IWWA members at the appropriate spots that were identified by Marla. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Okay. Pending applications. Roman numeral 5. A, application 0922-05, construction of single-family home, map 6385, block 39, lot 36A, James and Kathy Jean Barlow at 215 Crystal Pond Road. Okay,
Thank you for the record, Mr. Chairman, Norm Tebow, Killingly Engineering Associates. And I am here representing Mr. and Mrs. Barlow this evening. As you said, they are proposing to build a single-family home on at their property with frontage on Crystal Pond. This is a previously developed property. There's currently a cottage in disrepair and a garage and a shed on the property that are no longer being used. These structures will be removed. We will be proposing to construct a new single-family home with a two-car garage. Access via a right-of-way through an adjacent property. And the septic system is actually going to be a pumped system up gradient on an adjacent lot that they own. If I could share my screen, I could probably point some of the aspects of this plan out to you a little more clearly.
Yep.
Okay. Is that up there?
I think
Not yet.
so.
I
You
don't
think
see
so?
it.
Got that? Okay. So the property is accessed through the from the north through the Stearns Family Irrevocable Trust. There is a deeded right of way to get to that property. We had actually looked at constructing a new driveway coming down this slope, but it just required way too much earthwork. There's a lot of ledge over here. It would have been pretty pricey to build, and it also would have disrupted a lot of the ground as well. A lot more vegetation would have had to have been removed, a lot more grading. So it was just a better solution to stick with the deeded access that they have. So the home here, as we're showing it, they're also proposing a dock. It'll be a typical floating dock. It'll be fastened at the shoreline, removed seasonally. They are proposing to put in a small beach along the edge of the water. There is a kind of a down cut in the embankment there already, so they're going to utilize that area just to put some sand there to create a small beach area. We do have approval from the Northeast District Department of Health for the septic system design. It actually had to go to the state as well, because this is a septic system that is going to be on an adjacent property. We did do some test pits on the property itself on this 1 acre parcel. And although the soils were suitable, it just didn't really work out for the access and so forth, because of where the driveway had to go. We would have had to have driven over the system to get to the home. So it didn't really work out. And then when we tried doing some digging up the slope toward the east, we were hitting ledge. So it just wasn't an appropriate solution to do so. The home at its closest point, which is the southeast corner, will be about 35 feet from the water's edge. This heavy blue line is 100 feet from the water. And as you can see, pretty much most of the home is going to be within the regulated area. We're really kind of limited as to what we can do on this lot, because the flat plateau of the lot is where the home is being placed. We will be using a small retaining wall and a portion of the garage foundation to act as a retaining structure, as well as we build it into the slope here. We are proposing silt fence and staked hay bales at the point of the disturbance closest to Crystal Pond, and then we have just a silt fence at the remaining of the clearing limits. The septic system obviously is quite distant from the pond, and we did have pretty good test holes up here, so it actually worked out better to put it up there anyway. They are proposing a 5-bedroom home, even though they are really empty nesters, but they do have family that comes and stays for the weekend. They have children and grandchildren, and they just want to have the space to accommodate the family when they come down in the summer to enjoy the property. So other than that, I mean, relatively, I know that's a rather large house and kind of filling up all the flat space on the lot, but we did choose to put it in an area that would create the least amount of disruption. And it's in an area, as I said, where the existing cottage is right in the middle of where the house is now. There's a garage kind of where the septic tanks are and a small shed kind of in back of the garage. I don't know how well you can see the outlines of those things. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Bill, I'll let you go first if you have any questions.
Let me go first?
I'm sorry, your screen wasn't shared though, by the way.
My screen was not
Sorry about
shared?
that.
Oh, my
No.
gosh.
But that's okay.
I
We had
apologize.
them electronic copies.
Okay,
I thought it was only me. Huh.
That's
here I am
Bill.
talking away and thinking my screen was being shared. I apologize.
Well, I have several windows
problem.
open, so I'm looking at everything.
I
You have
could,
Same here.
there's a second well up by the road. Is that,
Yep.
that just like a hand dug well, or is it?
yes, yeah, that's a hand dug well. It's
Okay.
associated with the barn, correct?
Oh, this is Bill
I do have
Ruinski
a
again.
question.
Okay, go ahead, Marla.
I was gonna say, how much cubic yardage are they planning to put into the water for their beach?
Well, it's not actually going to be in the water because they're not placing that into the water itself. They're just digging out a little bit of the embankment and placing it out of the water. It will lead into the water, so I imagine there may be a couple of yards of it that do ultimately go into the water to create a little bit of a sandy
Mhm.
bottom. But the intention is to create the beach out of the water.
Have they provided any information as to the amount of cubic yardage they plan, how many cubic yards of sand they plan to place?
They have not. I could, with a quick measurement, I mean, if we assume 6 to 8 inches of sand, it would probably be no more than a truckload, maybe 15, 16 yards, I think would be the maximum amount.
Okay, so if any approval was conditioned that it would be maxed at 15 yards, that's a possibility, because it doesn't say in the application.
Yeah,
how much
I think that's,
yardage.
more than appropriate. Yeah, absolutely.
So are they gonna have any excess materials from the excavation for the foundation? And if yes, where are they gonna place that?
It will have to be exported off-site. There's really no room to lose it on site.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And regarding sequence of construction, what do they expect that they're gonna do first and then second? Like, when is the beach gonna go in? Obviously, they're gonna have to have access for machinery to get there, and they won't be able to have so much access once they start building the home. So I'm just trying to get an idea of what's gonna happen first and what's gonna happen
Well,
next.
the first things that'll happen is there'll be the removal of the existing structures and the tree clearing.
Mhm.
And then installation of the erosion and sedimentation controls prior to pulling out any stumps.
Mhm.
And any of the activity on the beach as far as placement of sand will have to be done either as in conjunction with the excavation of the foundation, or if they do it afterwards, then it would have to be brought down there with a small machine around the perimeter of the house. They've got that 35 feet to work with, so they would have to most likely dump the material away from the beach and just transport it with something like a small skid steer or something of that nature to put it in place, because they won't be able to bring a truck down there at that point.
Mhm. Yeah, and if their loam stockpile is in the way, that'll be difficult. They'd have to bring it all the way around the back side of the house, which would be
Correct.
difficult.
Yep.
It's pretty steep there.
So, yeah, and plus they're gonna probably have their well drilled as one of the first things after they take the house down, because that's proposed.
Yeah,
So
I
to
believe
get
so.
access for the well drilling equipment.
Yep. Well, I know that Gary Wittenberg is going to be doing the site work. He does a really nice job. In my opinion, he's one of the better contractors in the area. So I know he's very conscious of doing work around the lake areas and the ponds. I know he's done a couple of them in the area in the past, and he's done a very nice job.
Mark, I have no objection to conditionally approving this application. The conditions would be prior to the initiation of construction that the permittee submit for the commission's review and approval a sequence of construction for the activities on the site, and that all sand placement along Crystal Pond shore line be limited to 15 cubic yards. I think because of the complexity of the site, I think it does need a sequence of construction. So they know what's going to happen first, what's going to happen second, so you don't end up with some kind of problem you're not anticipating. I don't think the schedule is important as a sequence. Any thoughts?
So
And
that
that's
sounds reasonable to me.
something I could review with the contractor too, to make sure that we're all on the same page with that.
Mhm. Bill, you were going to say something?
No, I was just asked a few questions and they've been answered as we went along.
So Mark, do you want me to make a motion or do you want
Yes,
further
please.
discussion? Okay.
Yep.
So I move that application 09-22-05, the construction of a single-family home, map 6385, block 39, lot 36A, for James and Kathy Jean Barlow at 215 Crystal Pond Road, be approved on two conditions. The first condition being that the placement of sand along the Crystal Pond shoreline shall be limited to no more than 15 cubic yards of washed sand. And second, that prior to the initiation of any construction, that the permittee shall submit for the commission's review and approval a sequence of construction for all activities that are on the property for the development of this new home.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to approve application 09-22-05 upon the stated conditions regarding the 15 cubic yards of sand and the other and the schedule of activities. And I'll trust that Amy will get that language down from the recording.
Yeah, that's sequence of construction. not
Sequence
schedule,
of construction.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Any further discussion? Questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thank you, Norm.
Thank you for your time. Happy
Thank you,
holidays.
Norm.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Take care.
Okay. What did I do here? I lost the agenda. Oh, no, wait a minute. I got it right here. Okay. So, Roman numeral 6, new applications, letter A. Application 11-22-01. Declaratory ruling, Karen Spencer, map 7272, block 34, lot. Looks like F, OF 29.
Oh, 1-29,
Dan, what is that?
OF 29, huh?
Okay. Well, we'll catch that later. Anyway, at 5 Laurel Hill Drive, add sand along dock and retaining wall. We have anyone representing the applicants or the applicants themselves here? Okay.
Question, what water body are we on?
It's Witch's Woods, isn't it?
That's Bungie,
Bungie?
Laurel Hill Drive.
So do we have anything from the Lake Association saying that they have found this to be acceptable? Dan, do you have anything in the file from the Lake Association?
Marla, I
You're-
haven't seen it.
You're
I'm the
muted,
building and
Dan.
zoning chair. Marla, I'm the building and zoning chair for the lake and I have not seen it.
Okay.
It was not presented to the
So,
lake.
yeah, so I'm reluctant to pass on this without the Lake Association saying they're okay with it. Because the Lake Association, if I understand correctly, owns the watercourse bottom or owns the water rights, one or the other. Usually most deeds run along the high water line. I don't know what the deed for this, how this runs, but
Can we conditionally accept it or administratively accept it for consideration, but require more information? Or do we just say that, no, we don't accept it, and we need more?
no, we can table it. Accepting it is, that's for a permit application. This is a declaratory ruling, and if the Lake Association doesn't have a problem with it, then I don't know why we would, because but if the Lake Association has a problem, then I don't think we should be issuing a declaratory ruling, particularly if the sand is going to migrate into the association's property.
Right.
Bill Rowinski, I would like to know if they plan to keep that dock in place there. And if they move boulders around, where are they gonna go? Is it just to put sand around that, to be able to step it on the side of the dock, or is there more to it than what we're really seeing here?
Well, the photograph says existing boulders will line the water's edge. And the word will implies that they might not be where they are right now. But you can see kind of like a demarcation of a high water line on, at least on the first photograph. And that's a good photograph. So it does appear that the sand would be underwater. If that, on the first photograph in the application, the one that has the subtitle, existing boulders will line the water's edge. You can kind of see a dark line that runs along. There's a large boulder right in near the lower front,
Yep.
lower right-hand corner of the photograph. You can kind of see where the high water line is.
But it looks like they have an arrow there too that's showing the area that they want to fill with sand is upland of that.
But it
I don't
doesn't,
know
it
what-
doesn't, there's no drawing though that shows where exactly they're going to place the sand.
Well,
Just says
this-
adding beach sand with no,
on several of the
nothing
other-
else.
On several of the other photos, they show it being in upland, but it doesn't show a clear view of where it's going to terminate. In the second photo, it shows it circular. And then a third,
I
it shows
see.
a rectangular.
Says 12 feet up from the dock and 18 feet wide.
But where at the water
That's what the
line?
hand drawing is.
Right.
They should have put that in the description. Because the description just says adding beach sand. It doesn't say where, it doesn't say how much, it doesn't say. That's why I assumed it was gonna be in the water. So you're saying, no, it's not in the water.
Well.
So I think
depending-
maybe this should
depending-
just.
Yeah, depending if they excavate some there. I'm
Mhm.
seeing in the second picture with the circular boundary, they wrote in sand
Mm-hmm.
also. But,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know what happens at the water line.
So I think we should table this and ask Dan to get more detail, more descriptive detail as to what they're proposing to do.
Sure.
It's a good question about the excavation because you're not gonna just put sand down over the loam and grass, right?
Or the boulders.
Mm-mm.
Uh,
And just to verify that the dock is remaining in the same place.
uh.
That doesn't look like a removable dock. That looks
It
like a
doesn't-
stationary dock.
But it doesn't mean it can't be moved.
Not true, true. But it doesn't look like it's one that goes out in the winter and comes back in. Hmm. Hmm. Anyways, I move that we table application 11-22-01 declaratory ruling for Karen Spencer, map 77, no, excuse me, 7272, block 34, lot something of 29, 5 Laurel Hill Drive. Be tabled till next month's meeting with a request that the applicant submit additional detail as to the location and extent of sand deposition and the amount of sand to be deposited and any other proposed work such as retaining wall modifications
An excavation.
and
Second
excavation,
motion.
correct?
I second the motion. Did you make the motion?
Yes, she did.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Stuart Peasley to table application 11-22-01. And are there any further discussion?
Before you make a vote, Karen Spencer is in the waiting room. I'm admitting her now. I don't know if you'd like to ask the questions directly to her.
Mhm. Sure.
Sure.
Hi, Karen, can you hear us?
Yes.
The commission is discussing your application right now, and they might have a couple questions for you.
All right, thanks. Sorry I'm late.
Right.
So Karen, this is Marla Butts speaking. I just made a motion to table your request and till next month's meeting and to ask for additional information. But you might be able to provide that to us now.
Okay.
Some of the questions that we have is exactly what is the work that you're proposing? Are you proposing any in-water work, proposing any to place any sand within the limits of the high water line
No.
or the water's edge?
No,
Are you
Oh,
proposing to
well-
excavate any?
we're
Go
gonna
ahead.
have, there's existing rocks at the water's edge, and we're
Yep.
not going over those rocks. Those rocks will still be the barrier between the sand
Okay.
and the water.
Are you going to be doing any excavation?
No, I took out a couple of rocks, but that's about it. We're not gonna have any heavy equipment, we're just gonna, put it in, manually with us.
How much
Karen,
cubic yardage are you anticipating?
Can you say that again, please?
How many cubic yards of sand are you proposing to place?
20. I would think.
Maybe 20? I think Riverside
That's
is,
a lot to bring in.
oh no, we'd have a truck bring it in. And they would, there's all the sand's gonna be above the water's edge, so they can just come in and dump it. Excavating, we're not gonna have any equipment come in to dig out any area or anything because we're gonna use what we have existing now.
So you're gonna have basically about 2 truckloads of sand. Is that gonna
Oh,
be
no,
washed
I'm
sand?
sorry. We don't know what cubic yards is. No, we're not having 2 truckloads,
Maybe a half a truck.
maybe a half. I'm
I was
sorry.
gonna say,
Okay.
It's only
That's
gonna
okay,
cover
about
that
5
18.
yards.
Yeah, oh, that sounds okay, yes.
Karen, this is Mark Parker. It would be helpful to me if you could, I'm looking at your photographs that you provided us. And in photograph 2, it shows us looking down at the dock, and there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 planks, boards that are leading up to the dock. And you've got a grassy area right there. And you've driven a kind of a semicircular line that says sand. So are you just going to put sand down on top of the grass and existing soil there? Did we lose Karen?
For, to do, yes. Can you hear?
Karen, is there someone in the background speaking? I can't quite hear them.
No, it's me. My husband's driving with me and we were
Oh.
trying to get reconnected. I think we hit a low spot. But,
Okay.
we're gonna take out the grass so the grass doesn't go through the, sand. Because we don't want to have to do this every year. So we're gonna try to, make it so, we don't have growth underneath.
So you will be scooping out and scraping out some excavated roots, grass and roots, right?
Yes, just grass, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
just
yeah.
the grass,
So you
yeah.
kind of be scraping out, you think what, maybe 4 to 6 inches or so, just to get down under the sod, and then you'll put in the sand?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I think Marla was getting at, is we were trying to understand if you were going to be scraping or excavating out anything. Now, in the third picture that you provide, and now we're standing on the dock, looking back up upland onto the shore. And am I understanding that you're going to scrape out the grass 12 feet up and then 18 feet across,
yes,
and then putting the sand in there?
yes.
Okay.
so Rowinski, you're gonna keep the dock in place and not gonna be moving it at all?
Nope. And our property, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but our property has a very large rock. And so all that's going to stay. And again, we're going to have the rocks directly right in front of the sand just to keep the whole facade similar.
Mark, I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Okay.
To table.
Stuart, you were seconded it. Are you okay with the withdrawal?
Yep, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Any other questions that we need answered?
No, I think everything that I've heard kind of verifies that the work is not going to be in the water. So therefore, I don't think the approval of the Lake Association is required as long as no sand is going in to water, into the water. And they look like they have plenty of space to dispose of the material that they excavate out. Do you know where you're gonna put that, the stuff that you take out, Karen? Where are you gonna, where are you gonna dispose of it? All the sod and dirt before you
We
place
have,
the sand?
we have actually 2 lots, so we have plenty of empty space.
Okay. So where you're gonna dump it is not gonna be within 100 feet of the lake?
Oh, no, we'd probably be closer up towards the flower beds.
Okay. The only reason why I'm asking that is because any earth moving work within 125 feet of the lake is subject to regulation, and we'd need to know where that was gonna be. But since you've said it's gonna be away from that, that's not gonna be a
Well, wait.
concern.
Well, 125 feet, that's quite a large distance. I mean, that would probably bring
Yeah.
us up to the road. Is it not?
So you're
something that
planning
I
on
could
putting,
keep on my property?
yeah, we just need to know where it's going and that it's gonna remain stable, that you're gonna stabilize it. So it doesn't wash back into the lake.
So
Oh,
if
yeah,
you were,
oh, yeah, okay.
so if you and your husband could get a tape measure out and just let us know how far up, if it's gonna be, if you're gonna be 50 feet up or 75 feet up. We'd just like to know where on your property, how far away from the water's edge you're gonna be putting that extra material that you're scraping out.
Yeah, that's fair to do. I mean, what I'm looking at doing, I mean, we're doing all this by ourselves with our hands and shovels. Is any of the grass that's there? I mean, we got a lot of spots on our yard that can use a little bit of more grass. So I plan on kind of bringing it up to the spots that we have bare and in the front yard and kind of putting them there, and hopefully, it'll help the front yard out a lot.
Little
So-
transplantation, yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, it's not like we're getting a bulldozer or anything like that. It's our 4 hands, our 2 and my 2, that will be doing all this with shovels. And is it more than 125 feet? Yes, it would be more than 125 feet when you look at the front yard. Is where it'll end up going.
Okay, thank you.
Bill Rowinski, for reference, this is on the Bungie Hill Road's end of Laurel Hill Drive. It would be one of the lots that you could see from Bungie Hill Road on the left side. Just to give you a reference, if you're familiar with the area.
From Bungie Hill Road to Laurel Hill on the left side. All right,
Yeah.
yeah, I know where you're talking about there.
We're like
Where-
4 lots down from that first beach area.
Yeah, so when you come down Bungie Hill and you make a right onto Laurel Hill, we're the second house. So we have the second and third lot on Laurel Hill. So the house is on the second lot, and then it's all trees and flower beds on the third lot, basically.
Yep.
So our front yard our front yard is where the grass will end up going, is in the front yard there. We need some help for some of it.
Mark, as they've described it, I don't have a problem. As long as there's no placement of materials into the water, I don't
Yeah,
really have a problem.
Yeah, it's very, very far from the water. I can tell you that. It's more than 125 feet from the water. It will be.
Yeah, Frank, she was just referring to that the sand you're putting in won't be going into the water.
No, no, oh no.
Yeah.
The sand. No, we'll have the rocks that will be bordering the sand to the water, basically,
And they're already
Right.
existing.
and they're already there.
Yep. Okay, I'll entertain a motion on acting on this declaratory ruling.
So I'll make that motion if nobody has any objection. That application 11-22-01 A declaratory ruling for Karen Spencer, map 7272, block 34, lot of 29, 5 Laurel Hill Drive, to add sand landward of the water line, on the condition and as allowed as a use permitted as of right, maintenance, enjoyment of a residential home, provided no more than 5 cubic yards of sand are used.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to approve application 11-22-01 as a declaratory ruling with the conditions for the 5, not to exceed 5 cubic yards, upland of the water line above the rocks. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. All right, thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you a lot.
You're welcome. Okay. Moving on to Roman numeral number 7, administrative business. Letter A, enforcement update. Is that a report from you, Dan?
So Mr. Grenier of 399 Roseland Pond Road is going to speak during the citizen comment section. We have him on the Zoom call. But we also have a couple items of business to add somewhere to the agenda. I don't know if you wanted to review what the Bungie Lake Association has submitted for their beach maintenance. Those documents are up on the OneDrive. And I think we have both Ross and Mike Allen here. But that would need to be added to the agenda. And then we do have updated application forms for the inland wetlands application that I found, and Marla wanted me to put that onto the agenda item. A motion would need to be made to review those. But for enforcement matters, there was a Bentley case. I've been able to find the file. I haven't been able to dive into that one yet. But another case we have with Mr. Grenier, he's stopped into the office a couple times, and I wanted him to speak with the commission to try to find a solution to the situation over there. He's got images that I've uploaded to the OneDrive that depict kind of the high water situation that can happen at that property. And but where we want to speak on all these things is kind of up to you guys.
All right. Does anybody have any strong feelings of wanting to put these in now? Or do you want to wait until after we have our discussion about the ordinance concerning IWWA membership?
Well, if Mr. Grainier's on the line, let's not keep him waiting.
Okay.
We can do because I would like to know what the dates of these photographs are, what the specific dates were, what flood event this was. So we can check what kind of storm size it was, because there was a large storm before I lived in town. It was my understanding that really hit Muddy Brook pretty bad. And I'm wondering if that's when these were taken.
All right, so if none of the members have any objections, we'll place this on the agenda right now and let's address it.
Okay with me.
Okay.
Fine by me.
Fine by me.
Okay. Mr. Grenier and Dan, you're on.
Okay. I've done, to answer the question regarding the pitches, yes, some of, not all, but some of those pitches, especially the one that shows Muddy, the bridge at Muddy Brook, completely underwater. That photo was taken, I believe the person that gave me these photos, which is my next door neighbor, I believe those were taken about 17, 18 years ago. I could be wrong on that date, but if I remember right, it was a number of years ago. I thought she said 17, 18 years ago. Some of the other pictures were taken 6, 7 years ago. I did not give Dan some of the pictures that I have taken. I have been living at 399 Roseland Park since I think it was June or July of 2019. And I was told by my next door neighbor, because I approached her and I said, you know, I understand that this is a flood zone. And she goes, oh yeah. And I said, okay, what do you mean by, oh yeah? And she explained to me that the brook, about every 7, 8 years, maybe a little longer, will overflow its banks. And she said, I have photos, because she has lived next door. She's 71 years old, and she said she was born and brought up there. So she has a pretty darn good idea of what goes on over there. And she said she had numerous photos in her computer, and she would print some of them out for me, which she did. And you're looking at them now. And since we've been there for a little over 3 years, it's happened twice. And one of the photos that shows the side of the house looking at from Roseland Park down the house, the right-hand side, you will see one photo, the top photo, showing the water right up to the corner of the house. You will also see 2 sets of sliders there. They are about 4 inches off of the ground. And then the photo just below that is basically, I moved back towards Roseland Park and just took a photo to show you how far up towards Roseland Park the water actually went. And as I said, this has happened twice in 3 years. My proposal that I put before you folks back in June or July, you know, I'm a carpenter. I'm not a water scientist. I'm not anything to do with flood zones. I thought putting a pond in would be part of a solution. It wouldn't be a total solution, because you could see the water that comes up there. You'd have to put a pond probably 10 acres big to probably contain that kind of water. And I made numerous phone calls to all different people who are professionals in the field. I spoke with Norman from Killingley Engineering. I spoke with Mr. Theroux, who is a soil scientist. I spoke with a Danielle, I hope I pronounced this name right, The last name, I believe she said, was Missel or Missel. Daniel Missel from Department of Environmental Management. I also spoke to a Jim Creighton from the Sanitation Division. And I basically told them of what my situation was. Is there any kind of solution to this? And Danielle from DEM actually came up with, I hope, is a solution. She said to me, she goes, Mike, I bet you that if you go out or somebody goes out and shoots some elevations in that low spot, I bet you it's probably not more than about 6 to 8 inches difference from one end to the other. And she was pretty darn close, because I did go out and I have a laser and I shot some elevations. And from the low spot of the flood zone to the high spot of the flood zone is about 11 inches. And I said, okay, is there any kind of solution? And she goes, I think there is. She goes, I'm not part of your wetlands division. I can't speak for them. But she goes, this is something that I would allow, is just take the high spot out of the flood zone and make it equal to the rest of the flood zone area, and then channel it back into the brook. She goes, all you basically have to do is just scratch out the surface. She goes, go about maybe a foot down at the very most, make that equal to the low spots, and then make a channel going back into the brook that you were talking about. And I went, that makes a lot of sense. It's not putting a pond in, it's just routing the water into Muddy Brook quicker. Instead of that water staying there for months on end, I can route it back into Muddy Brook. And also, the way she said to do it is, she said, go from the high side on both sides and just scrape it out a little bit. And as you go towards the middle, you just go a little bit deeper and then back up on the other side. And I said, you know something? That'll even work good for the dairy farmer that hays it, because it won't be a quick dip. It's going to be just a gradual dip, and it'll work for me and it'll work for the dairy farmer. What do you think of that? And I would like to extend an invitation to all the members of the council to come down to my house. I will not take up a lot of your time. I got the area marked out with stakes that has to be just scratched out. And I would like to show this to the members of the council. And if you have any questions, seeing is better than just trying to visualize something. And I've also been told, I believe Dan is the one that told me. And I just want to say one thing also. You got a hell of a guy in Dan. He's very nice, fairly knowledgeable for Woodstock. I mean, I know he's only been there a short amount of time, but he was really helpful for me. But I understand that if all of you come down at one time, you have to call a special meeting. That's not needed. If you want to come down individually, I am retired. I got plenty of time on my hands. My wife has Parkinson's, so I am home pretty much 24/7, except if I got to go grocery shopping or something like that. But I am generally home all day long. And if you folks want to come down individually, that's fine by me. But I really would like to see you people come down here and take a look at the situation. And hopefully we can come up to an agreement that works for both of us. Hello?
Thank
We're
you.
here.
Hello?
We're
Yep.
here.
Okay, I thought I lost you.
No, you didn't.
You know, I know, and again, you know, going back to this meeting, it's not only a special meeting that you would have to call, but you know something, sometimes it's hard enough for two people to get together, never mind 4 or 5. So that's another reason why, you can come down here individually. I mean, we're getting close to the holidays. Maybe you don't even want to come down here before the holidays. That's fine. I mean, really, nothing can be done on this property until like next summer, when it dries out enough where you can move in there with a piece of equipment. I have my own backhoe. What is going to be required to do the work here? You don't need a large piece of equipment by any means. You're not moving that much material at all. And the only other thing that I was going to do is the back part where it goes towards Muddy Brook. There is a section there that's, I'm going to say 30, 40 feet long, maybe. That is where they go through with the tractor from the Spalding property over to my property. I might just scratch that out, wide enough that it's not going to, hurt any of their equipment. Or what I might do, if you go along with either one of the two plans, is I would just dig a smaller width trench, and fill it in with pea stone and keep it completely flat. And that way there would be no problems for the guy going through there doing his haying. But that's basically, from all the talking, and believe me, I have spent hours on this because two things. I have to protect the house. The back part of the house is finished. It has doors that are ground level, and there is a kitchen, a dining room, and a living room there. Another thing I have to protect is the leach field system. The leach field system, and I went round and round with Mr. Theroux on this. I've always told people, everybody that's ever worked for me, use your head, use common sense. Common sense will get you a long way in life. Well, they got a section of that property in back of the leach field that is designated flood zone. Then they have another section right where the leach field system is that is not designated wetland. Yet I shot elevations over there, They're exactly the same height. They're not even an inch difference. And I said to Mr. Theroux, I says, you know, common sense tells me if you're getting flooded or flood zone all around that leach field system, and, you know, how can that one spot not be designated wetlands when it's the same elevation? And
Perhaps
I really didn't.
Marla
I
Butt
really-
speaking. Perhaps I can explain a little bit of that to you. Mr. Thoreau is a soil scientist.
Yep.
And the Northeast District Department of Health controls the septic systems. And it could have been that that septic system was an engineered septic system, which would have meant that they brought in imported materials. So the soil scientist would not have identified it as wetland soils because the soils were brought in from some other source. So it's very possible, depending on what the health department required for the septic system, which is probably an engineered septic system, and they don't typically allow it to go in wetlands, filled wetlands. So it might not have been
I
wetland
was
soils
told that.
originally, but what's around it now, Mr. Thoreau, I guess, is telling you that there are wetland soils around it, even though they're at the same grade or appear to be close to the same grade. It could be that the septic system was engineered, and that's why he's not showing up as the classification of soil,
Okay,
wetland
again-
soils, because that has to have certain characteristics.
Okay, again, I'm a carpenter. And I'm not gonna stand here and try to tell you that I know everything about installing leach field systems or flood zones. I'm not here to try to tell you that. And I'm sure you wouldn't buy it anyways. But I asked Mr. Theroux, I said, you basically come in and drill holes and take soil tests, correct? And I said, did you do this? I says, because from looking at the paperwork, all your work was done before the leach field system was installed. And he goes, it's gotta be. And I said, I thought so. And all the engineering work that Killingly Engineering does has to be done as well before the leach field system can actually be designed. And I have a call in to, I can't remember her name. I don't have the paperwork right in front of me. She hasn't returned a call, but the person, it's a woman over in Brooklyn. She works for, I think it's the Department of Health.
Maureen Marcoux?
You got it. And I haven't
She's a
gotten a phone-
sanitarian.
Okay, I haven't gotten a phone call back from her yet, but again, I'm thinking common sense. I look at that leach field system design, and I got two questions for her. One is, do you allow an apprentice to install leach field systems? That's one question I have for her, because I came from Rhode Island. I was a builder over there for quite a while, and I had leach field systems put in. And I guess one state from another, things are a bit different. But in Rhode Island, an apprentice could not pull a permit to put in a septic system. So that's one question I have for her. The other question is, knowing that the leach field system was, we won't say it's in the flood zone, because according to the paperwork with the professionals, it is not. But looking at that and how close the flood zone actually is to that leach field system, I would have thought that you have to put a perimeter around a leach field system that is very clean fill. It's made up generally of clean sand, a little bit of clay mix, some stone. I refer to it as the buffer around the leach field system. And everyone that I have ever seen and had installed on jobs that I was doing was about 8 to 10 feet wide all the way around. And what it basically does is, should the leach field system get an excessive amount of water, or if somebody doesn't pump their system quite when they should, this buffer zone actually will prevent this material from leaking out of the leach field system. And around the diagram of the leach field system that I have, it shows about a 2-foot buffer. And again, I'm going back to common sense. Common sense tells me if you have a bunch of water, and I have pictures showing the water almost going over the top of the leach field system on 3 sides. To me, a much larger buffer zone should have been installed. Okay, it wasn't. The problem is existing. And the problem I see is, with that buffer zone, as small as it is, aren't we trying to preserve our lakes, our streams, our water sources? As far as I know, we are. Now, what I'm trying to propose, is it going to eliminate the problem? Absolutely not. Nope, no way. But if I can get the water as Muddy Brook recedes, if I can get the water away from that leach field system as quick as possible, to me, that's going to help out Muddy Brook. It's going to help out Roseland Park Pond and whatever else ties into that brook system. And I could show you the pictures of the design of the leach field system. And I mean, you don't have to be a leach field installer to read these plans. I mean, they're very basic. I mean, one other thing that I was gonna talk to this lady about was, don't you have to have a professional set of prints done for a leach field system? What this guy designed looked like a 5-year-old drew. But anyways, again, I'm getting carried away. I'm sure you want to have some of your night available. I would just like to extend the invitation for you folks to come down here. And one question I have for you: what do you think, right off the top of your head, of what I'm proposing?
So this is Mark Parker, Mr. Grenier. So yeah, so I agree with you, and that you will always, when the flooding events come, as you said, every 5 to 7 whatever years, you know, it's going to happen. The water is going to come up. But what you're proposing is to create basically an outlet, so that water, when it does breach the high embankment area of Muddy Brook, it's going to come in, it's going to flood everything up. But you want to create a little spot for a little further to the south, so that the water can more quickly, as Muddy Brook recedes, so that water that has now been ponding and pooling because of the flooding event will now be able to get back out and into Muddy Brook much more quickly. Because right now, it sounds like there must be a high enough embankment that all this flood water, once it, tops it, it's trapped in there and it takes a long time for it to drain out. But if you can create an opening a little bit to the south, a little lower so that the water can flow out, but through the surface instead of leaching down through the ground, that kind of makes sense to me.
I'm going to tell you what you just said, without doing any work over there at all. I'm going to say once Muddy Brook starts to recede, I'm going to say about 50% of it will go back into Muddy Brook, because my grandson, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, actually went swimming in the backfield. And I told him, I said, I want you to stand up in certain areas. The water in some areas was almost 3 feet deep. Now, that is higher than the total of the property. So that water definitely, as Muddy Brook goes down, that water will dissipate. That's why I'm saying approximately 50% of it will dissipate on its own as Muddy Brook recedes. The other 50% is what gets trapped in the lower lying areas and just stays there. And you know as well as I do, when it's cold, water doesn't evaporate and dissipate nowhere near as quick as it does when it's much warmer. We had, since we've been here, it happened in the summer, and it took about, maybe about 3 weeks or so before you didn't see any more surface water. And then it happened one time, I believe it was in the beginning of January. And basically that water was there until almost May. And, I think what this lady at Department of Environmental Management came up with, I think, really, to me, it was a brainstorm. I mean, you don't have to do a lot of work to correct to help correct the problem. You're not going to correct the problem 100%. There's no way. Mr. Theroux even said to me, he goes, Mike, you are always going to have, you may not see surface water, but he goes, if you put a shovel in the ground in the lower lying areas, you probably go down 8-10 inches and you're going to start to hit water. And he's right. I mean, it is a flood zone. So you're not going to get rid of all the water, but I just want to help get rid of the surface water as quickly as possible, especially for the leach field system. And I don't know if you people, if any of you folks have been by my property, but what I did is from the one of the back corners of the leach field system, I built a barrier of dirt all the way around, all the way back to Roseland Park, to prevent that water from coming into my house. And going from the 2 years that we got flooded, I think I'm high enough to prevent that water from going over the bank that I made. But, Mother Nature rules. I would like to take it and even go slightly higher. I know that's going to pitch the property back towards the house. But if I don't go higher and it goes over that wall, it's in the house anyways. And that is a major concern of mine. That's my son and I bought that house. His family lives in the back part of the house. My wife and I live in the front part of the house. And with my wife's condition, if I had to move out of the house and go into a hotel for any extended period of time, that would be extremely difficult for my wife. So I have to protect that house as best I possibly can. But Mother Nature rules. No one is going to beat Mother Nature.
Right.
I can only try my best.
So, I see the project as is basically what you said, getting that surface water out more quickly than it currently does. I mean, once it gets down to that 50% level that you talked about, once it's at that level, it's not threatening your house at that level, right? At the 50%?
No, it's not threatening. The only thing it's really threatening is and it's not a ton of land. I mean, if you folks came down here, you would see it's not a ton of land. I'm going to say it's maybe 3/4 to an acre. And how much hay do you get off of 3/4 of an acre to an acre of land? But I look at it this way: dairy farmers today or farmers, not even dairy farmers, farmers today can use all the help we can give them because they make no money. Their money is in their land. And I don't charge this dairy farmer for the hay that he takes off the property. I'm more than glad to give it to him. And he keeps the property, presentable for me instead of looking like just a big field of grass growing everywhere. And I just want to make it easier for him as well. Because there's been times where he hasn't hated it because he says, Mike, he goes, if I go in there, he goes, I can get out. He goes, I got 6-wheel drive with this thing and I'm going to get out. But he says, I'm going to tear the hell out of your field. So that's another reason why I want to get rid of that water, because I'm just trying to help the dairy farmer. He's a nice guy. He's always treated me good. Every time he's down here, he says hello. And I know if I can give them, I don't care if I'm giving them only $1,000 worth of hay a year. That's $1,000 they don't have to take out of their pocket.
Mark, this is Stuart Peasley here. Just, it seems to me like what he's proposing is just to do some swaling of the topographical surface area to allow the water to go back to Muddy Brook.
Correct.
So within an elevation of 6 to 12 inches, it's a minor encroachment, seems like.
Yeah, that I will tell you this: the laser that I used is not like what an engineer would use, but it is. If you know anything about a laser, all you have to do is establish that two things: that the laser is level, and the laser will tell you when it's level, because when it is not level, it flashes. Once the flashing stops, that means the laser is level. You establish a benchmark, and then you use that benchmark as you're establishing high and low areas.
Yeah.
And
No
that's
question about it, but my point is this: it's just that the intent to solve this problem is a minor swale.
yes. Yes. It's no more than a foot. No more than a foot.
And that's spread out over 50
Over
feet,
about 16 to 18 feet.
16 to 18 feet. Okay.
And I mean, really, could it be smaller? Maybe. I mean, I put stakes in the ground, as I said. I mean, is there some tolerance to make that a little bit smaller? Yeah, probably. The only reason why I did it that way is for the guy who hays the field.
That's about a 1 to 16 foot slope. So if you want to envision that, an ADA handicapped ramp is 1 to 12.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, this would be well, right off the top of my head, I think your figures are very close. But it's like, as I said, it's very, very minimal, because in a 16-foot span, if you're only going down, we'll say 10 to 12 inches, that is a very slow grade, very slow dip. And the dairy farmer who hays it would be able to go, because I'm even willing to throw seed back down there after I dig it out. The dairy farmer already told me, he goes, you don't have to do something like that. He goes, that's going to grow right back up anyways. And I just went, okay. He says, when I hay it, he says, do you realize I'm throwing seed all over the place that's already there? He goes, you don't have to buy any seed. He goes, within a year, he says, that'll be all grown back in and growing hay all over again. But that's it in a nutshell, folks. Again, I want to stress the invitation to you folks to come down here at your leisure. I'll even give you coffee and donuts if you want it. You know, but I think seeing is better than trying to visualize something from what somebody is telling you over a phone. And I mean, we all live in Woodstock. It's not like we got to pack an overnight bag. I think what I'm asking is more than doable.
Mark,
Yeah, go ahead, Marla.
this is Marla Butts speaking. Okay, so there's two issues that Mr. Grenier is raised. One is concern for his house and flooding of his house. And I would suggest in the interim that he get some sandbags and have sand available so that if a flood does come in the interim, that he has a way to block floodwaters from entering into that doorway and into those sliders. Because if it's going to enter into the house, it's going to go where the path of least resistance, and those are the paths of least resistance. So the way to protect that in a temporary fashion would be to have sandbags available that you can put in when a storm has been known to come. And you can pick that up off the weather service. You know, when there's heavy rains, where you get a large amount of rain in a small amount of time, that brook is going to react, because the upper watershed of that brook is steeper. And this is the flat part of the watershed before it goes into Roseland Lake. And that's why the floodwaters come up. The second issue that he has besides his house, I know he talked about the septic system, but I don't think that's the real issue. I think the other one is the wetness in the agricultural field. That's a separate issue. That's a different thing. I'm having a hard time understanding exactly where that opening would be along the bank of the Muddy Brook, because typically streams do have levees along them that have built up over time next to the riverbank. Then they can hold the water back, and opening an area may relieve some of the water faster. But I think that the overall flooding on his property is the fact that it's a floodplain, and have to figure out how that best it can be addressed. I have no objection. I don't live very far from you, Mr. Grenier. I live up on Bull Hill Road. So I've seen that property a number of times. I have not seen it during a major flood event. I was not here when Muddy Brook overtopped Roseland Park Road. And the picture that you first provided us in your drawings, in your
Yep.
photographs. That has got to be that time. I think it was in 2007. I know a couple of people in town who witnessed it. Somebody who owns property up off of Katy Lane, which is part of the same river system. And they'll probably remember the date of what that is. That was Doug Porter. I believe he's an alternate on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'll ask him what the date of that flood was. And then I can look up rainfall data to find out what size storm that was, because if it exceeded a 100-year return frequency storm for that small watershed, then that's why the waters were so high. There was no detailed flood study by FEMA on Muddy Brook. There's no cross sections. They don't have, what the actual elevation is of the 100-year return frequency storm.
I know
FEMA is in the
that.
process of redoing. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say what you just said about FEMA and the flood maps. I know that because I inquired about that.
Yeah. So FEMA is in the process of redoing all of the maps on in the Thames River Valley. Right now they're working on the Quinnebog, and then they're going to work on the Shetucket. And they decided because Woodstock, half of Woodstock drains to the Shetucket, the other half drains to the Quinnebog, they decided not to do Woodstock's floodplains in more detail. They're doing them in Thompson, but they're not doing them in Woodstock. They'll do them in Woodstock when they get to the Shetucket River. So we don't have any better flood data, unfortunately. The best data we have is we have this record storm that happened sometime before I moved into town. And so if we can find the data on that, we can find the rainfall data on when that happened and what kind of storm frequency that might have been. But that doesn't address the issue of your house potentially flooding. And I do think you've got to get yourself some sandbags. If you're that concerned about the downstairs flooding, you've got to get yourself prepared so that if a flood does come, you can do some protective measures. That's not your only egress in and out of that lower floor, correct? You have another entrance and egress up on the second floor, on the upper floor?
Yeah, the other egress is from one side of the house to the other. It's
Okay.
back-to-back doors.
Okay. Just as
I don't
long as
know
you
if you
have
know
a
that.
place. No, I don't know that house that well, but you have to be, if you're gonna sandbag off the entryways that are facing the river and the floodplain, you've got to have an egress, a way to leave that floor if the flood comes and starts getting higher. But there's no guarantee what we're going to get. We're getting climate change right now, and we have no idea how high these floodwaters ultimately are going to go. And that's why we were concerned that whatever you did at your property, if you did it such that you trapped water close to your house that it couldn't drain away, you would have to have some kind of pumping system that would pump it down quickly so that you didn't stay waterlogged for a long period of time. I have no objection to coming out and looking at your property when, after the snow disappears off the ground. But I'm not prepared to go before the holidays. And if snow hits before that.
Yep. That's why I said, with the holidays right around the corner, it's not something that's got to be done tomorrow. Basically to go in there and to do any work in there, you're probably looking at June, July, early August. So it's not something that's got to be done tomorrow.
Okay, so in the meantime, stop doing any grading work or bringing any fill in. Get yourself some sandbags.
That's one thing I wanted to address as well. I thought about that when you were just talking. Norman said to me, not Norman, but it was brought to my attention that you guys thought that I was doing some digging in there. Absolutely not. As I've told everybody that I have talked to regarding this, which was the last time at the meeting, I received a cease and desist order on that, and I have not been in there since then. When I went in,
don't bring any fill in either. Don't bring any fill in or materials in to to beef up that berm at this point in time until we get a chance to look at the whole area in the spring.
Can't I, well, no, I won't bring any more in because I think I am good where I am now. But if I am outside of the flood zone perimeter, can't I raise that? Can't I do something like what I've already done without going through wetlands?
It depends on where the wetlands are and what the grading work is that you want to do. The wetlands were flagged when the land was subdivided for an agricultural field. So we have a delineation. You should be using that map to guide you because the wetlands delineation probably shouldn't have changed very much from the time that subdivision. That's the one that's on the land records.
That's what I've used.
Yeah.
And I am, the work that I have, well, the work I originally did when I was down in the backfield with the backhoe, that was in the flood zone. And that's what I received the cease and desist order on. But building that, I'm going to call it retaining wall to protect the house, that is outside of the flood zone area. That is not in the flood zone area. But
wait a second. I think you're confusing flood zone and wetlands. So the wetlands were flagged by a soil scientist. The flood zone is established by FEMA for flood insurance purposes. They're two different lines. Don't confuse them.
Okay.
Our responsibility is to regulate wetlands.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I may have them confused then. But when I went in to see Dan this past week, you know, he told me that at some given point he would have to come out to my property because it was brought to his attention that I had done some work down there and that I was digging in the wetlands area, or I should say the flood zone area again. Somebody saw a big fresh pile of dirt, and I informed Dan that I have not been in that area since I received the cease and desist order. What the pile of dirt was that somebody saw, I just had all crushed asphalt brought in, and I spread it up around my side of the house, which is up where the red barn is, all the way down around the back of the house where my son's part of the house is. And that's the big pile of material you saw, because you don't put crushed asphalt on top of loom. But I will assure you, I have not been down there doing any digging where I shouldn't be since I received that cease and desist order. And I hope I'm okay.
May I ask you a question?
Go ahead, Stuart.
The house, I'm looking at the photographs, and with the water up to the house's edge. So when was this built?
When was the house built?
Well, or whatever is right on the water there.
Is
that the house?
Well,
is there an addition? Or?
The original part of the house was built in 1984. Where you see the sliders, that was an addition that was built in, I think it's 2002 or 2003. The new leach field system was installed in 2018.
Oh, so 2018 would have had proper wetlands review. So there should be
a file
with the delineation at that time, was it 100 feet, 125 feet, or 2018? I know I've,
You know who might remember that? Might be Tina LaJoy,
Oh.
because she would have been here at that point in time as agent, I believe.
so
And
if that,
I could go back and look at our old records to see if anything came before the commission at that time. But
that
there's
might
no
help him
guarantee.
with locating the berm. If he wants to do a berm,
Mhm.
at least he'd be able to delineate it correctly.
Mark, I suggest that what we do is, rather than have a special meeting on site, I mean, if you wanted to do that, I don't have an objection to that, but it'd have to be a site walk and it'd be a special meeting. And that would require a special notification for that. We could do it that way, but the only time to really do that would be in the spring. Because you're really not going to tell when the ground's frozen. You have to
Yeah, that's
do that
fine.
in the spring. So
No,
as
that's
long as
fine.
Mr. Grenier doesn't bring any more fill in within 100 feet of that wetland, then we can just put this on hold until the spring comes and look at it then.
Yep.
I don't
So
know how
that-
the rest of you feel about
yeah.
that.
Makes sense.
It's
Yep.
okay with me. I'm familiar. I go by there at least once, almost every day, so somewhat familiar with that. It's usually in the dark now, though.
Yeah.
Another wrench in the work, though, there's nothing you could do about it, is we've kayaked up from Roseland Lake up the Muddy Brook, and there are often trees across the brook there that further can detain the water. And I've never been able to get up as far as the Roseland Park Road in a kayak, just because it's not, it would be navigable if there weren't trees down across it. And I do
Yeah, that's probably
remember,
also, I was gonna say, it's probably also impeding the receding of the floodwaters from
Yeah.
Mr. Grenier's property.
yeah, because it would just be backing it up. And I think the first photo of the water over the bridge, I think it was higher than that when I went to work that morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And you drove
Yeah.
through that?
No, I didn't drive through that.
I actually, the neighbor next door, who happens to be the sister of the people that owned the house previously. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
But she said she actually visualized the water that the first picture, the only picture that you see of Muddy Brook, the bridge. She said the water at one point was almost completely over the rail system on either side of the road. She
Over the
said that,
guardrails. Yeah.
no, not the guardrails, on the bridge, the rails on the bridge.
Oh, you mean the head walls for the bridge? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, she said the
Wow.
water, she said it wasn't up there very long. She said it was only up there, she said she could see maybe 6 inches of the top. And she said it lasted maybe 2 or 3 hours and then started to go down a bit. But I mean, you know, as I always did when I did carpentry work, I always said, what if? You have to take a worst case scenario. Maybe, you know, what happened here, you know, some 20 years ago, 18 to 20 years ago, maybe you'll never see that again. But then again,
Oh, you
you
will.
might see,
You will.
yeah, and you might see it twice as bad. Who knows? That's why I said, you know, we can't control Mother Nature. And I believe, as one of you folks said earlier, you know, the climate is changing. We have stunk up the atmosphere so bad. Now we're trying to put a Band-Aid on a big open wound. And until they realize that you got to put more than a Band-Aid on something, we're paying for it. And, but I mean, I would technically, personally, I would like to put up a 10-foot wall around the leach field all the way back to Roseland Park Road. I know I can't do that. Plus it would look stupid. You know, it looked like I got a fort here. But hopefully I'm going to be, you know, fertilizer before anything like that happens. You know, I don't know, but I'm still here on this earth. I want to try to protect what I got.
Yeah, so I would suggest that we schedule like maybe late April, early May, a special meeting over at your place, Mr. Grenier. But in the meantime, for this winter, I'm gonna pray that we don't have any major storms that will, you know, that will dump that kind of water up to your house. But if it should, I would strongly agree with Marla that you get some sandbags and just be prepared for something happens this winter.
I'm already prepared for it.
All right, good. Okay.
As I said, I always take worst case scenario because if you can think of it, it's probably going to happen.
Right.
So, but
It's probably
you know,
inappropriate for us to. Probably not appropriate for us to look forward to the donuts, but thank you for offering.
I was just going to take orders. But anyways,
I'll take a sesame seed bagel. Oops, who said that?
But anyways, okay. What I'll do is, I don't know. I mean, why the heck send letters back and forth? I could just give somebody my phone number. I'll stop in and see Dan. He's such a nice guy anyways. I don't mind going over and seeing him. And I'll leave him my phone number. Dan, I haven't given you my phone number, have I?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So I will stop in, you know, sometime before spring. I'll leave my phone number with Dan. When you guys, I always say you guys, I forget this one lady on the council. When you folks are ready to come out here, give me a phone call. You know, why send a letter? Just give me a phone call.
Yeah.
That work for you?
Yep.
Okay.
That works.
All right. I'm going to let you folks have the rest of your night. I want to go finish watching the Bruins.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Right?
Okay. What was the other item, Dan, that you wanted to add?
Well, Mr. Ellison is waiting here, so maybe we
Okay,
should. if
let's
you
go with
wanna add
Ellison
that-
now. Yeah.
So Mr. Elson and Mr. Allen provided a maintenance plan for the beaches. It should be available to members in the OneDrive documents.
Won't
They have-
download, Dan. I just tried it. It won't download. I can't open it.
I
I,
Perhaps-
got it earlier.
yeah, it's working for me. I don't, off of the
Okay, I'll try again.
website.
Okay, I'll try again. Go ahead. While I'm more trying it. Okay. Don't wait for me. Just continue, please. Mark.
Yep. Okay.
Well, we could read it out loud if you would like, Marla. It's just a paragraph and a list.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. The Lake Bungay Tax District, LBTD, would like the town of Woodstock Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agencies permission to perform shoreline maintenance at 5 of the beaches located within the Lake Bungay Tax District. The beaches are listed below. This would include the removal of sediment from each beach. The work will be done by J&A Construction. Sediment will be removed and left to dry along the shoreline. Once the sediment is dry, it will be removed and repurposed for lumen gravel. And then it has the list of beaches, and there's 5 of them. They range from 20 to 50, 15 to 20 yards. The first one, the second one's 20 to 25 yards. The third one's 25 to 35 yards. And the last 2 are 7 to 10 yards. So my understanding is Mr. Ellison can correct me if this is primarily for the removal of the sediment.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I don't know if that helps anybody, but
Ross, have you noticed if any vegetation has increased in those areas? And if by cleaning it out, you'll get rid of some of the vegetation?
Yes, the Laurel Hill fry pan is quite a bit of vegetation. One of the property owners, if you were to go by down the Panhandle fry pan, it's their usage. It's terrible in front of their place. It's I think it's called cat tails, perhaps. It's hideous. I would be furious if it were my property. Well, it's not their property, it's the lake's property, but you know what I mean. If it was in front of my property, it would be they have never even complained, but would really like to do something for them. We had no idea how to approach getting any of this work done. We stopped in one other meeting when you guys were approving our personal stuff, and this is, if I understood you correctly, and then went over it with Dan, and this is what I believed you guys wanted a rough idea, so you could see if you could approve it or not.
Is there any proposal to bring in some newer, fresh washed sand?
No, none of these no, actually, we hadn't thought about it. The one beach could use it, but we're not interested in doing that now. We were mostly interested in cleaning it up. Perhaps we could visit that area next year or see if we needed more permits or something. The purpose this year is to get the muck out and that weed growth that you just mentioned.
Yep.
so we'd understand that the areas that you would be removing the sediment would be below the water line normally,
Yes.
but you're doing the work now because the water's down?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I've been unable to pull up the information, but is there a map that identifies the locations along with this verbal request?
No, it's just a narrative.
The 5 separate beaches are listed by name. The Lions Small Beach, Laurel Hill Small Beach, Laurel Hill Large Beach, Beaver Dam Small Beach, and Beaver Dam Large Beach.
Okay. I'm having a problem connecting with my PC, so I'm just gonna have to run by seat of pants from what you said. I don't have any input to give at this time. I think I'm gonna have to rely on you guys with what your opinion is. So I'm having problems.
My thought is that it's primarily a maintenance thing because you do get runoff in some of these places. And just to get the accumulation out.
Ross, would you also want to include, a window of dates that you want to get this done by?
You would like that verbally now or submitted to the committee at a future time? We're hoping to do it as relatively soon. The contractor called and asked if I had permission yet, but it's all up to you guys. Obviously, you know that, but you know what I mean. We
Okay,
have availability now if it were permitted. If not, we'll make other arrangements.
right. When is the proposal to bring the water back up?
We have till spring. We leave it down. We do not close the gate until after winter.
I'm okay with this. Do any of the other commission members want to see, have this done before, the water is brought back up? Put in a date, or do you want to just accept it verbally? I'm okay with you guys starting and doing it now in the winter while the water level is down. Yeah.
Would it be reasonable you think, to get it done by March 1st?
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking they want to do it much sooner rather than later. Like if he was already calling, the contractor
Yep.
slowed down this time of year and they have availability. And, it's a good time. I thought that there might have been talk about they wouldn't mind seeing a minor frost to give the equipment more support, near the shoreline. But it would be we would prefer to do it in the near, this month of December, if, with permission, obviously.
So you said it's going to be left along the shoreline to dry.
Yes.
And then once it's dry, you're going to remove it or repurposed for loam and gravel, like on the properties that border the lake or properties further away, or what are you thinking?
The contractor will take it away and use it away from the lake, nothing to do with Lake Bonnet.
Okay.
I know, I'm on my Zoom meeting. I'm going through my Zoom meeting. I'm connected through, but I can't get through here. It just locked up on me.
So how are you getting in?
I don't know. My Zoom meeting is working. You're not gonna shut me down. Just let it go for now. Sorry, guys.
Okay, yeah.
My internet is down.
Oh, no, okay. So I don't know, are we just,
It's primarily a
we need
maintenance.
to, Bill, do you want to make a motion for approval or what?
Yeah, it's primarily a maintenance task.
It's a maintenance task, right? Yeah, I would agree, yeah.
So I would make a motion that we approve for the Lake Bungay tax district. The maintenance of the 5 beaches mentioned in their, or listed in their letter. The Lion Small Beach, approximately 15 to 20 yards, be removed. Laurel Hill Small Beach sediment, approximately 20 to 25 yards to be removed. The Laurel Hill Large Beach sediment, approximately 25 to 35 yards, be removed. Beaver Dam Small Beach sediment, approximately 7 to 10 yards, be removed. And Beaver Dam Large Beach sediment, approximately 7 to 10 yards, be removed. And with the stipulation, as they already promised to do, is leave the sediment dry along the shoreline. And once it's dry, it can be moved. And the work will be completed by March 1st, 2023.
Add one thing to that, it can be removed from the site, not just moved,
Yeah, well, removed, yes.
removed.
Yeah.
Was that a second, Stuart?
Yeah, I second. it. I just want to make that clarification that it's being removed.
Yep. Removed and repurposed for other properties away from the lake.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion by Bill Rowinski, seconded from Stuart Peasley, that we approve this beach management plan, sediment removal plan. With the stipulations of it be done by March 1st, and that the sediment as described will be allowed to dry and then removed completely off-site. With the yards listed as Bill has read off from the written submitted plan. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you,
folks.
Ross, for all your work.
Appreciate everybody's help. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay. Oh. Okay, is there anything else?
they had also
Dan?
mentioned the application. I
I'm
don't
gonna
know,
ask that we table those,
Yep,
because I'm having problems with internet and I'm concerned that you might lose me.
Okay,
Because apparently the internet is down through my whole house, but somehow I'm making it through with the Zoom meeting, and I don't understand why. Because
wow.
none of the other devices from the internet are working.
Okay,
So I'm going to suggest that we keep the rest of the meeting kind of short, because you might lose me anyways.
okay. Okay, so the ordinance concerning IWWA membership, do we have, what more do we need to do on that?
There's a town meeting tomorrow to vote.
Okay,
is that online or in person?
Believe it's in person. There is an announcement on the town's website. Let's see.
I did see one, but it didn't have a location or a Zoom.
Meeting room 1 of the town hall,
Okay,
7 p.m.
That for all eight? Is that just for wetlands?
There are a number of ordinances that they have. It looks like 5 on this list. Municipal land use fees are one of them. It's a tough read,
Okay, no problem.
but there is an announcement. The first ordinance amendment that they're considering is the inland wetlands and watercourse ordinance. They're repealing one fee ordinance and replacing it with another, it appears. And then there's some expenditures, one related to emergency tree removal and local bridge project phase 2. So five items up for vote. And the wetlands ordinance is one of them.
is that the same ordinance that we've been working on the language on for quorum and stuff like that?
Yep, reducing full membership to 5 and the alternate members from 3 to 2.
Right, okay. Yep. All right, great, thanks.
Welcome.
Okay. Citizens' comments? Do we have any citizens left? Let's see. Oh. Okay,
Bill
any other
Lewinsky,
business?
not that I know of.
Okay,
Bill Lewinsky moved to adjourn.
I second that motion.
motion's been made by Bill Rowinski, seconded by Marla Butts to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Okay, at
So
9:15, is that what you, what do we
Yep.
got? Okay,
9:15.
very good.
yep. See you guys later. I don't know how I got through the Zoom without having internet, but somehow
All right,
it's going.
it's
See
magic.
y'all
Like
later.
Santa's- must be
Yeah.
Santa.
See ya.
Bye.
Have a good one,
Bye, thank
everybody.
you. Thank
Bye.
All
you.
right, Merry Christmas. Happy New
Thank
Year.
you, Amy.
Merry Christmas, yeah.